I commend Steve and the rest of the people with him for trying to have an organization such as this. And I also have to commend the people that attend and participate in organizations such as this, because there's a definite need for it. I think I wasn't here this morning, and I wanted to be because I almost canceled out, which would have been to your benefit. But I came, and the speakers I've heard this afternoon all had some great input. And some of the discussions I had with some of you in the back, I've learned a lot, so we can learn from one another. Those of us that think we know it all, and I'm sure there's nobody in the room like that, but those of us that think we know it all, we always find out the hard way we have something to learn. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. It won't take long, just so you can understand the remarks I'm going to make that Steve asked me to talk about. I don't need my glasses for reading. I have no prepared speech, but I did make some notes. I've been a career policeman. I started that when I was in Chicago. I'm a native of that great city. And I worked in the pits of it when I was a rookie. I worked in the housing police. We used to always argue who had it worse, the housing cops or mass transit. And there's still that argument. I think housing had it a lot worse. But it was a great, great experience working in the ghettos of the big city, at that time the second largest city in the nation, because it teaches you how to be humble, and and how to respect other people. The last speaker that spoke, he hit everything on the head as far as respect, not only toward the person you're serving, because it's like I used to tell officers at the academy when I was, made it up to assistant chief in Florida. Not every violator should be treated like a felon, and not everybody you serve needs to be treated like a criminal. Some people are being served processes for criminal acts. We don't know if they're guilty of it or not. Some are being served papers for non-support, bill payment, who knows what. But hard times befall most of us unless we've been blessed with a good job with a pension and retirement and what have you. After a tour with Chicago, I wanted to move to the suburbs. So I left there and went to work for Cook County. And there I got involved with organized crime and what have you. And all this was a stepping stone. And then I reluctantly, several years later, moved to Florida and resumed my career. And I was with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, a large agency. And then my last 6 years in Florida were with, when I lived in Orlando, I was the assistant chief, one of them. And within my portfolio was internal affairs, communications, public relations, community. I had a lot of it. And if there's anything I learned from that, it's respect. Respect generally begets respect. And now that I'm in a different form of law enforcement, and I have my job in foreign service with anti-smuggling and foreign corruption and how it impacts our First Amendment here in the United States. I also have a business where when I'm home, and I'm home now for a year and a half, where I do investigations and process serving, and I have several police officers that work for me part-time. I'm regional president of the FOP, which is a nationwide police organization. In some areas we're union, some collective bargaining, others we just represent. In my local, I have members from 5 different public safety agencies. And if you think processors could be difficult to work with, Steve, try managing cops from 5 different agencies. I've learned a lot of things, and that is some people hear and some people listen. Not all of you may understand what that means. Some of you may. But if you'll let me indulge, I'll give you an example of some people hear, some people listen. And if I should, and the chances are very slim I will, if I should use a profane word, it's an occupational hazard. It comes with being at the command level where you're used to telling people what to do, and sometimes you just have to say it the way it is. But I want to share with you a little story here, and I don't know if it will bring a tear to your eye or not, but please indulge. There was 2 elderly women were eating breakfast in a restaurant one morning. Well, I'll give them the names of Ethel and Mabel. And Ethel noticed something funny about Mabel's ear and said to her, "Mabel, You know you've got a suppository in your left ear. And Mabel answered, I have a suppository in my ear. She pulled it out and stared at it. Then she looked at Ethel and said, I'm glad you saw this thing now. Now I know where to find my hearing aid. But some people, it gives an example of listening and hearing. Some people may use microphones in the same method, I don't know. But it's something to think about. Now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Process serving is really an art, in my opinion. Do I know everything about it? Nope. Do you know everything about it? Nope. But chances are you know more about it than I do, and somebody sitting at a table may know more about it than what you think you know. But I have a unique position, and that is being a regional president of a nationwide organization of roughly 500,000 people, and representing these people at administrative hearings. They tell me the way it is because they know I can trust them, and they trust me. So I used my opportunity at our last FOP meeting, and I asked the cops, I said, look I've been asked to give a talk at this organization on the 13th of October, and I said, I'd like to ask you all, there's deputies there, there's city policemen, whether it's Pueblo County, Fremont County, Canyon City. The other two agencies are federal or DA investigators, and DA investigators, that's a unique class. And I asked them, I said, what is your general opinion of process servers? And I probably had about a 20-minute talk with about 13 that really got involved with it. And for the most part, they all think we're crap. They really do. So then, being involved with the analysis of human behavior, I'd say, well, if you think process servers are all full of crap and they don't earn your respect, why is that? And it boils down to three things, and that is, does your appearance command respect? Does your attitude command respect? And does your overall demeanor command respect? Now, when I was assistant chief, I had it at the academy, mirrors in several of the places, headquarters and what have you, and I had signs placed all over the place that said, does your appearance command respect? Research, not just an opinion, but research through the Police Planning Research Officers Association has revealed that a person that's only dressed slightly better, and I'll use this term, don't anybody take it personally, better than the slob they're going to deal with, doesn't have much more respect than what the appearance is. So your appearance has to command respect. You don't see a Navy officer go out and have the troops or the troops pass and review, or any military officer, and he's in dungarees or a t-shirt and what have you. The Bureau has done extensive studies on appearance and the impact it has. This is especially good when you're in organized crime or corruption, because sometimes the two go hand in hand in how your appearance is. So if you're an investigator and or an intelligence officer or a detective, and there is a difference. They're not all the same. Sometimes you watch TV and you hear Investigator Jones, there's a difference, especially in the major departments. Does your appearance command respect? This does not mean you have to wear a tuxedo or a three-piece suit when you're going out and serve. No. I may be fairly good in verbiage and communicative skills and what have you, but if I'm in a slum area in Chicago, or as of last year in the Caribbean countries where I'm in the ghettos, and we're trying to get information on gun or drug smuggling, if I go there and I try to use King's grammar on people that may have a 5th, 7th, or 8th grade education, I'm probably going to get the crap beat out of me. On the same token, if you go to a sophisticated corporation and you're dealing with corporate executives, a receptionist that's responsible, and you walk in and you're getting some resistance, you don't want to use street talk either, because it's just not going to work. The psychology of the moment is what you have to address yourself to. And again, going back to appearance, do you have to wear a suit and a tie? No. But should you wear blue jeans and a t-shirt? No. No. But again, what if you're in that ghetto neighborhood or an area where if you pull up in a car and you get out and you're dressed in a suit and tie, someone sees you through the window, they may assume you're there to sell Amway or you're there to serve a paper on them. And so you have to dress according to the situation, but you should never allow yourself, and you're getting the advantage here of thousands upon thousands of dollars of research that I'm relating to you. You never allow yourself to go down to the level of the person you're going to serve. You have to have a slightly, you know, in law, in criminal law, especially when you use force, they have what they call, and it's federal, it's been upheld by the Supreme Court for years, long before I was on the job. You have a right to use a reasonable superior force. Well, I also advocate that you have a right to have a reasonably better appearance. So if you go up to a house in a middle-class neighborhood and you're dressed in flip-flops and cutoffs and what have you, most people are going to be reluctant to open the door for you because they don't know if they're going to get mugged or not when they open that door. And so you have to dress accordingly. But then where does it go from there? Your attitude. It's a risky business. If you box them into a corner, they may submit, say, give me the paper and get out of here or what have you. Or they're going to come out fighting. I had an example personally, which really kind of supported some of the words that the cops were giving me a couple of weeks ago at the FOP meeting. And that is, I live on a ranch. I have no neighbors. My nearest neighbor is about 6 miles away. It's not a big ranch, but it's a good-sized ranch. And it's at the south end of the state in Pueblo County. I had a gal knock on the door. Now, from a male perspective, this was kind of nice. I looked through the door, because I have no neighbors. Nobody should be walking up there. She was in short, tight shorts. Immediately, it caught maybe both eyes, but I'll say at least my eye. She had a halter top on. She was fairly attractive. So being the reasonable, prudent career lawman that I am, I asked myself, now why is she here? Does she know I live alone? Is it a surprise birthday party, but it wasn't the month of my birth? Somebody sent her here as one of those little gag gifts or something like that. No pun intended. And I said, you know, I don't know. Should I open this door? But, so I said, yeah, what can I help you with? And the reason I'm reluctant to do that is, as Steve knows, 3 days before I moved into my house, which I bought 10 years ago, had built, it was arsoned. It was burgled, and then it was arsoned. 3 guys from the contractor knew when I was moving in. They burglarized it from 1 to 3 in the morning. All the new appliances, furniture. So I'm a little gun shy. And even with a female with short shorts. And so I asked her, I said, what can I help you with? She said, well, I'm looking for an address. I said, well, how about 812 Main Street? You know, that's a good address. Or 1226 Santa Fe or something like that. She said, no, no, no. She gave me an address that was in Fremont County over in Penrose. I said, you know, you're a long way. You're in Pueblo County. Why would you even stop here? And she said, well, I just wasn't sure. I'm new at this. And I said, well, you're new at what? Now, I was dressed kind of shabby. I don't always wear a tie. And she told me, she said, well, I'm a process server. And I said, well, what kind of process are you serving? And she said, well, I serve legal documents. I said, oh, and I'm looking at her appearance. Now, here I am. I work organized crime. I've worked the slums and the ghettos. I've done foreign intelligence. I have a business on the side. And I'm thinking, this is a process server? Was it appealing? Sure. But was it the right image for her to project? Probably not. But as she's talking to me, I notice a car outside. And so I said, you know, let's walk out here. And we walk out this, you know, she's by the back door. We walk out. And I guess it was her fellow process server. And he gets out of the car, and he's, you know, got cut-off jeans and flip-flops, a T-shirt that, you know, has more holes in it than some of our politicians do. And he gets out of the car, and I'm looking and I'm saying, these are process servers. What kind of image is this? When I talk to the cops, they say, okay, first thing we do, we get a call. Now, you got to remember this, folks. By statute, police officers, when they go to assist you, or they don't really go to assist you, they're there to maintain order, to prevent a breaching of the peace. They're not supposed to pick sides. Now, here's what's unique. These guys are telling me stories. They'll say, well, Hickman, let me tell you this. Just last month I had a processor over in a process server in Canyon City. They called for a backup before they were even to the house. How do they know they're going to have problems? You get over there and the guy starts saying, "Hey, how you doing?" and starts introducing himself. He says, "You know, as one lawman to another." He says, "What do you mean? Are you a lawman?" He said, "Well, I'm performing a service for the court. I'm serving papers, so that's part of the law." So we're actually, and he was really stretching it. And this particular cop, who's not as tactful as I am, says, "Like hell, you're a fellow lawman. You're not a lawman. You know, you're a process server." "Well, yeah, but it's still, ultimately it's going to wind up in the courts. So it's a legal service, therefore I'm a legal officer." And I guess there's something better to being a legal officer than someone that's illegitimate. At least I was told that when I was a kid. And it led into a big argument. And then one of the deputies joined in. He said, "Well," he even gave the name of the process server, which I won't mention, but this process server may be known to some of you. But this process server calls for a backup. He went to a house and allegedly was getting resistance from the subject of the service. And unlike most of you, which are very kind, I don't call everybody a gentleman or a lady. Those behaviorally are behavior traits. Not all ladies know when to look and act like or not all females know when to look and act like the lady, just like some men don't know when to be the gentleman. So they're subjects. So the female subject is being confronted by this process server who gets very rude, very impolite. Process server calls for assistance. The deputy goes over there, and right away, and this is in conjunction with what the last speaker had to say, the process server was trying to take control immediately. That is a no-no. That is a no-no. "Well, I got this paper to serve, and this woman won't come to the door. I can see her through the window. She won't come. She won't even acknowledge a knock on the door. So you need to assist me." And the deputy says, "I need to assist you?" So let me ask you this. Is that deputy required to assist you? No. No. But here's the process server telling the Fremont County deputy, "You're required to assist me." So what do you have now? Somebody being boxed in the corner. And the deputy's not going to kowtow. He says, "I'm just not going to do anything for you. You go serve. If you don't get any service, I'm just here to make sure there's no breach of the peace." So then you get into the attitude. Now you have an argument between the process server and the lawman. And who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to win? Deputies and city officers, any kind of lawmen, they run the risk of subjecting themselves to injury just by going on duty. The process serving industry is very, very dangerous when you think about it. My approach is, when I do it, and I don't do it that often because, well, I own the business. That's why I have these guys working part-time for me. But when I go up there, I don't try and get rough. I don't try and get demeaning and insulting because I'll get resistance. And I've been doing it since I've been back from overseas, so that's almost 2 years. And I haven't had any incidents yet. And some of the areas of Pueblo County can be pretty darn rough, just like you have areas like that up here. It's not so much what you say, it's how you say it. So I strongly suggest that when you have the need for a police officer to come and you call in, you stress it's not an emergency. You don't want to call 911. "I'm a process server. I need assistance," because then you're going to have the cops coming there like gangbusters. And then what happens when they get there? They find out you haven't even knocked on the door yet. The people or the person just says, "No, I'm not opening." But when you get there, now you've called somebody with a lot more authority than you have. A lot more. You don't tell them what they're supposed to do or how to do it, but you can politely, in a roundabout way, without being direct so it's offensive, you can request them to assist you. And if they like you and you gain respect, when you're in that area again, they'll give you the support you needed because they'll know you're not some hot dog that's out there trying to circumvent the law and have them do your dirty work for you. So your appearance is important. Does it command respect? Your tone of voice. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that both equals demeanor. Is the demeanor such where the person is going to resist you. In this case, the police officer, because I can tell you this, no matter how much training an officer gets or a military officer, it makes no difference. We still have to deal with human nature. When you're in a firefight or a combat situation or a potential hazardous or dangerous situation, sometimes your training is back here, but human nature kicks in. And you don't want to be the proverbial hot dog. And speaking of hot dogs, I want to leave you with this one story, if I might. Because this is a good clue. When you see Steve walking up, that's a good clue that I'm done. And I don't know, is anybody here of Swedish descent? Swedish or Norwegian? Steve, yeah. You know, damn. You know, when I first met Steve, I thought he was Norwegian, but so much for that. I'm not as good as I thought. But I just want to share this with you, and it'll talking about hot dogs. Ollie was hunting geese one day up in the slough. And, you know, a slough is like a pond for those of you that are city slickers. He leaned the old 12-gauge shotgun against the corner of the blind to take a leak. You notice I didn't swear there. Actually, I prefer that he left one. And as luck would have it, his foolish dog, Sophie, what a name for a dog. You know, who's more foolish? You know, the guy that named the dog or the Sophie? Knocks the gun over and it goes off. Ollie took almost an ounce of birdshot in the groin. Now that can hurt, especially if you're a male. Several hours later, lying in the hospital bed, his doctor comes in there to see him. And his friend Sven actually is there. He says, well, Ollie, I got some good news and I got some bad news. The good news is you're going to be okay. The damage was local to your groin, and there's very little internal damage. And we were able to remove all the birdshot. Ollie says, oh, that's great, that's great. What's the bad news? The bad news is there's some quite extensive buckshot damage to your penis. I don't know what that has to do with hot dogs, but that's what came to my mind. I'm going to have to refer you to my sister Lena. Ollie looks at the doctor. He says, you're going to refer me to your sister Lena? And I got a damaged penis? He said, well, I guess that's not too bad. Is your sister a plastic surgeon, I guess? Not exactly. She's a flute player in the San Jose Symphony Orchestra. And she's going to teach you where to put your fingers so you don't piss in your eye. Thank you.
Hey, wait a minute.
Don't tell me you're a flute.
That is rated XXX, so when we do it, we got to make sure that we have no...
Yeah, true. All right, thanks.
You did a great job.
Well,